Taking action against fear is never comfortable. It's not meant to be. Discomfort is where growth thrives. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Marvin here from backsideoffear.com. Why? Possibly the most powerful word in the English language. Everywhere you look, there is a why attached to it. You walk into an unlit room, flip on a light switch, and instantly, everything in the room comes into view. You can now avoid the possibility of tripping on shoes that you previously didn't know were in the middle of the floor. The ability to flip on the light switch and enjoy the convenience of instant light was the product of a strong why to develop the light bulb. Prior to the light bulb, there were lanterns powered by fire. You guessed it, the discovery of how we can use fire as a source of light was the product of a strong why. Why is the window holding yearning, arriving to the point to where you're no longer content with the status quo and you yearn for more. Several years after I discovered the power of association and how it propelled me to become a better golfer, I ran across a book called Aspire by Kevin Hall. The book was recommended by John C. Maxwell. I figured I'll check it out. The book consists of a series of stories around unique words. The word that stood out to me the most was sapere vedere, where sapere means to know, vedere means to see. Therefore, sapere vedere is to know how to see. But not just to know how to see, but to know how to see something that's not actually there. Upon reading the chapter on sapere vedere, I instantly recalled back on when I was on the high school golf team. I realized I wasn't envisioning myself as the golfer I was at the time, which as a beginner would be quite discouraging to envision. Who wants to envision a series of shanks and occasional swing and a miss? Rather, I envisioned myself as the golfer I could become. I had admired the experienced golfers around me and strived to reach up towards their level. I began to ponder the idea that if I envisioned myself as a fluent speaker, just how fluent could I become? Would I be able to give a speech without stuttering? Working in relation to improving my skill in golf, to become a fluent speaker, I would need to surround myself with public speakers who are better than me. All of this sounds good, like a fantasy, but how could I be sure that it would work? How long will it take? There are so many questions. I was yearning for an improvement in my public speaking, but the window was not very clear. How clear is your window? The interesting thing about stuttering is it doesn't have an on and off switch. In some moments, you can be mildly fluent, whereas others, you can barely get out a sentence. This unknown led me to want to avoid as many social situations as I could. If I had to attend some sort of social event, I would do everything in my power to avoid speaking. Why are you quiet, Marvin? Somebody may ask. I would just shrug it off. The truth is, every conversation is like a battle zone. My weapons consisted of several helping mechanisms that I picked up in the past. I would use filler words such as ums and words like absolutely. The way in which these filler word weapons were used was to help flow from one word to the next. Another was a timing mechanism, which is to time when you're gonna speak at the exact moment that you feel where you have the highest probability to complete your sentence. This mechanism was interesting because sometimes it resulted in interrupting the other person. Another weapon was to switch up a word mid-sentence. If I would get stuck on a word, I would just switch up the word and say something similar. Those were my most common weapons used in the battle zone of each conversation. That's not taking into account the embarrassment from stuttering in front of someone. Party time was battle time. The easiest thing to do is to choose my battles wisely, speaking when only required to speak. We all must suffer from one of two pains: the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. The difference is discipline weighs ounces, whereas regret weighs tons. I've heard this quote many times by Jim Rohn, who is an American entrepreneur, author, and motivational speaker. It leads me to recall all the battlefields that I've left without picking up my weapon and giving it my best shot. It reminds me of the battles I've attempted, but gave up. You may have heard many times in the past that pain is often the best motivator. I could begin to feel just how heavy regret is. But how heavy would it be at the age of 30? How about 40? I began to feel a pull towards taking action. Often, the desired circumstance never occurs. The stars rarely align. What can prompt the decision to take action against fear, regardless of the undesirable circumstances? For me, my decision to face public speaking head on was out of the notion of enough is enough. Yes, it's easy to change my major in college to something that does not require public speaking, but enough is enough. I had enough of calling somebody on the phone and having such a severe starting block that the caller on the other line hangs up the phone. I had enough of fearing whether or not I'll be able to order my food. I love food. My window held my yearning for speaking fluently. I began to envision what life would be like if I never had to worry about whether or not I will be able to speak in a given situation. Sapere vedere. I began to envision myself not as the speaker I was, but as the speaker I could become. These thoughts are great and all, but the reality is I fell straight on my face on my first speech. But I was picked up by my classmates to step back into battle. I sensed that my classmates believed that I could speak. My window drew ever more clearly. My pain of regret evolved into not wanting to look back and think, how far along would I have gone had I continued on? Upon passing the public speaking course in March of 2013, I immediately decided to join Toastmasters, where I found another group of friendly and encouraging people. I had practically declared war on my stutter. I watched others present their speeches in the Toastmasters Club. I watched their body language, the way that they used words, their vocal variety. I watched their confidence level. I analyzed the same qualities watching speeches on YouTube. Each speech I viewed made my window ever more clear as the speaker I could become. In the olden days in Toastmasters, there was a competent communicator manual which consisted of 10 speeches. For each speech, my personal goal was to give a speech without stuttering. I had eventually arrived at speech number 10, where the objective of that speech was to inspire my audience. For my previous 9 speeches in Toastmasters, I've stuttered quite a bit, but I believe this one was going to be my best speech ever, where I would be more fluent than I ever was before. I'll show you a clip of the video of that speech. The full video will be linked in the description.
I stood face to face to the giant electronic box, which contained to what I knew to be an intercom microphone. But before I go on from there, let's go back to when I was 10 years old in 1999 at Springway Elementary School. I was always quiet. I kept to myself. Why would I go through all the agony, the frustration, and the pain of trying to get words out as it would take me like minutes to get out a single sentence? Do any of you ever remember a time like you read out loud in class, like you had reading time? I used to dread those times. I would sit in the class as we watched as they went like row by row, and my palms would get sweaty, and my heart would start pounding as my turn approached. And I would come to one of the most difficult words, the, and I felt like Lloyd from Dumb and Dumber, as like Harry had to help him along and said, yeah, the word's the, as he's like, or whatever he said.
If you watched the full video of that clip, you would have noticed I stuttered quite a bit during that speech. I stumbled as to what I was going to say. I felt like I completely failed that speech. I wanted it to be my masterpiece, but I fell short. The interesting thing about life is it's not linear. There are ups and downs going through the process. Although my 10th speech didn't meet my expectation, I was able to look back on my previous audio recordings and see improvement. Although I felt like I lost that battle, my window was still clear. Time continued on as it consistently does. Along the way, I had my ups and downs through speaking. In September of 2015, I decided to compete in the humorous speech contest for the second time. I decided I would practice my speech multiple times throughout 5 different clubs leading up to the division humorous speech contest. Finally, the day came for the contest, and I'll share a clip of that speech. The full link to the video will be in the description.
I was on the green in 4 strokes. My buddy, on the other hand, was on the green in 2 strokes. I knew there's absolutely no way that he would possibly make a 5. The best score I could possibly get is a 5. I should be just focused on the next hole. There's no way I can win this hole. So I stepped up without lining up the putt. I hit the putt, and of course, I missed it. I watched my buddy walk up to his putt. He knelt down, lined up his putt to get the perfect line. He stood up, he struck the ball, and I watched it as it tracking, and it rolled 5 feet past the hole. He stepped up, he hit his second putt, watched it, and then looked down. Right then and there, I realized that you never want to give up too soon, because you never know what might happen. On that hole, I lost the hole by a stroke. On the second hole, I lost the hole by a stroke. On the third hole, I lost the hole by a stroke. I'm like, what is going on? This marble was on the ground for a reason. It's bad luck.
Although I didn't win that contest, I didn't even come in 3rd place. I felt like I had won my personal contest. It was the very first speech that I felt like I gave the speech I came to give. When I took my seat, I was satisfied with my performance. All the work over the 2.5 years was worth it. As I peered through my window, holding my yearning desires, I didn't see a picture of what I could be. I saw a picture of what I had become. Taking action against fear is never comfortable. It's not meant to be. Discomfort is where growth thrives. The question is, when is enough enough? We all relish in the fruits of thousands of individuals' decisions to take action against their fears. What is your why? When you peer through your window holding your yearning desires, what do you see? And remember, it's amazing what you can achieve on the other side of your fears. Subscribe for more videos. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and share it with your friends to help grow the community of action takers. And don't forget to visit me on backsideoffear.com. Have a great rest of your day.